Hey guys, welcome in. Today we're conquering the top 10 challenges that top agents face, a la Tom Ferry's AI, all of his 250,000 hours of coaching that he dumped into AI, and it spit out these top 10 challenges that his top agents are facing. And today we're doing number 2.
Yeah. So last week we talked about time blocking, having no white space, really mastering the calendar.
The feeling of scarcity of time.
Yes. And now, with this prospecting that you do and all these deals, when you really start to get more listings, more buyers, as you get busier, it's really hard to keep a 5-star level service with everybody.
Yeah.
So how do these top agents really understand marketing at scale and keeping the listing scalable, keeping pricing quality, keeping, that Ritz-Carlton service as we talk about? It's how do they maintain all of that as they continue to grow?
Yeah.
Because how many agents have we talked to and coached through this where they start getting busier, they build the team, then production starts to fail, then they're like, man, I need to get back into production, but now I'm not spending as much time with my team. So it's a balance of how do we do this?
Yeah, and it's so the number 2 is managing the higher volume of listings and managing sellers, and then pricing properties to sell, and then scaling that. So yeah, you do all this outreach, more content, more calls, more mailers, and then what happens? You have this business, and now you have this higher volume of business, and so inevitably service is gonna start falling a little bit because you have so many plates that are spinning, right? So they say one of the things I really liked was replacing hustle with systems, right? Because then you can maintain the customer experience. And look, we live in a review economy that Tom says almost every podcast, right?
Yeah.
So service is critical to get those 5-star reviews. So we came up with 4 ways to approach how to kind of identify with and start identifying solutions for this issue of scalability and dealing with more volume of transactions. Number 1, what are we looking at doing?
Well, number 1 was really creating that repeatable system for your listing presentations, for your client services. Okay. So documentation, documenting everything that you do throughout that transaction. I really like the documentation of videos. If I were a realtor or an agent, we do this in our process. We do a lot of video on how the process works.
Yeah.
So that way it's repeatable. So when you can have a welcome to your real estate transaction and having your clients watch those videos of every step of the transaction that they're going to go through.
Oh, you can hedge against so many questions.
Right. Well, and kind of thinking about this too, systems will produce what systems will produce, right? So
nothing more, nothing less.
So, to scale these, you have to really change the systems and create these documentation on how are you doing things and how can you train somebody, when you build that team to show them this is the exact process of how we go into a listing presentation. This is exactly how we manage the clients. This is our checklist for our items of how we go through this.
Well, and if you think about it, it's smart because look, if your experience for your customers is contingent upon the person you're bringing into the day, it's going to be all over the board, right? Because some days you're hungover, some days you're tired, some days you're 10 out of 10, right? So they get who you bring into the day. But if you bring a system in that's a repeatable and it's the same approach, same step, same activity every time, then you have a chance of being super consistent. I think of the old adage of a cheeseburger in France from McDonald's tastes the same as a cheeseburger at McDonald's in Spring Valley, right? Why? Because they have systems.
So what do you get every time? Consistency.
Consistent user experience.
Yes, you know exactly what you're getting every time. Quality, kind of at the McDonald's might be a little off depending where you're at. But
you know what you're getting.
Right?
You know what you're getting.
The quality of the systems with a realtor, that will keep having that same quality professional experience for your clients and that consistent feel every single time.
Exactly.
So that's where we love that analogy. I still love a McFlurry or McDonald's French fries every once in a while.
It's called cheat day.
You know what you're getting every single time.
I mean, my first 10 years in title, I probably dealt with this a lot because, there's charm and there's hustle and there's when you're on, you're on. And then when I was off, right? And so there was a lack of systems in my business. So my production and user experience for sure was up and down to say the best or to say the least. And so now with systems in place, they get communication and they get a consistent experience. And I think one of the things is communication that we're getting to, right? So what's number two?
Don't jump ahead. Don't
Oh,
jump
is that
ahead.
too? Am I too far?
Yeah,
Sorry.
He likes to do this. He jumps ahead.
I'm a work in progress,
Yes.
people.
So number two we talked about was like, how do we keep pricing and how do we keep that? Because it's very emotional when we go in with sellers and talk about pricing, right?
Yeah, tell about the 20 years.
Yeah, I mean, we talk about this thing. I mean, my family, we sold our home. My parents lived in that home for like almost 30 years. And so there was a lot of emotion behind selling that home. My mom's Christmases every year, learning us playing in the cul-de-sac for 30 years, all of our birthday parties in the backyard. So for my family, like that was a really emotional sale. So they want to price it where thankfully my parents are pretty reasonable people and they're in the business. Yeah, they know, but most sellers go in with that emotion of like, this was my home. There were so many experiences here. But buyers, they don't care about that. No. What do buyers care about? They want the AC to work. They want to make sure the roof is good.
And they want a deal.
They want a deal.
Real
right?
shit, right?
Yeah.
So you're right. I look at my living room and I don't see a living room. I see Christmas. I see Easter. I see late night movie watching with my children. I see all those memories, right? So you need to learn to price without emotion and with data. And you have to let the data speak for itself because it's hard to argue with. And I think of the analogy with the river. Yeah. Here is the current in this part of the county of where homes are moving. And then you can price, if you price here, you're going to be on the beach of the river. You're going to be on the sand. You're going to be on the side. And if you price here, you're like in the forest. Like you're not even being looked at. We're not going to move. But you want to be in the current where the market is moving in the river. So how do you bring that to a seller who's emotional about how they feel about their home?
Right. Well, and I love the quote they have here. It's exactly right. It says, your job isn't to get the listing. It's to protect the sale through strategic pricing from day one.
Ooh,
so many of us going to get the deal, right? But we really have to protect the sale because that's your job, to make sure you get the best deal for your sellers and really understand it's an emotional process for them. So I love that quote. It's not just to go in to get the listing. It's to really protect the sale from day one and to make sure, because we've seen the movie before. We know what happens when you price up here and you're consistently trying to chase down the market, and then the listing goes stale. It's been on the market for a while. People question, why is this on the market for so long? Then you have to take it off and put it back on. So there's a lot more challenges that come into play when you start up here, I feel like, and trying to chase down the market versus right now we're seeing people kind of price a little bit above asking, because right now we're seeing a lot of activity back into the market.
There's a lot of buyer appetite for sure.
We're seeing people get offers and over asking, and there's still negotiation on that side. So we're pretty optimistic that this year is going to not be like off to the races, but we're going to see
steady and strong,
moderate increases in transactions. The affordability is going to be there a little more for more people. So I think having that strategy of pricing and knowing every single time, these are how I look at my comps, these are how I do this is exactly how I go in, and not having the emotions kind of lead the way forward.
Well, and what helps with that is raw data. So you can say, look, these guys priced way too high. Look at the market time and look at where they ended up selling. Percentage to asking on what it actually sold for is a huge number, and there's no emotion in that. That's just data. The other thing is it's counterintuitive to an emotional seller, but if you go beneath that current, we talked about where properties are selling, and price a little under, you're going to get a bidding war. You're going to get more eyeballs, and you have the chance to get it above asking. You get, with a bidding war with multiple people offering on the property, which is counterintuitive, but it's not about price. It's about price strategy. How do we arrive? We both want to arrive at this higher number. Here's how I recommend we get there based on this data.
Yeah.
And not just start there and then have the potential, like the Smiths did over here 2 streets over, of chasing down and settling for 20 G's under where the properties should be selling.
Yeah.
Right? So I love that. Price with data, not emotion.
Yeah, and having a strategy on pricing. This is our price strategy. So that was how, when we start building and getting bigger and scaling, that becomes a problem, because now you have all of these listings, and how do you have a strategy to price all of them?
You want to move them. You don't want just 17 things on the MLS. You want to be moving them.
Exactly. So that also comes with what else in place, which leads into number 3, the challenges that they were having with really scaling and getting more listings was controlling the seller.
And communication.
So how, because if you have an emotional seller, you have to have constant communication. And we have found, especially in our business, the more communication, the better. Because if we make the outgoing call,
It's like this long.
it's like this. But we know if we get an incoming call, it's normally going to be like this long.
Oh, boy.
So I feel the same goes in any kind of business, any kind of thing. And so when you're over communicating with the seller like weekly and having a system,
I think don't fire me report. Right off the bat.
Exactly.
Every Monday, go through all your listings and tell them what you did, what exposure you got, how many stories on Instagram, how many caravans you
how
hit.
many people came through the open houses,
How many
all the
conversations
feedback.
with your sphere you had about their home, and give them a report of what activities you're actually doing to get eyeballs on their property. The buyer's agents in the zip code that you talk to about their property, because the MLS, after they go on market for a certain amount of time, they just go numb to those properties and they don't see them anymore. So you got to bring them back up to those buyer's agents who have buyers for that property, and have a report every Monday. I would call my sellers and give them the report of what they did, what the result was, and then maybe later in the week prepping them for the open houses or another type of communication, and just have those be landmarks in your calendar, right?
Yeah.
Those things happen regardless if it's good news, no news, bad news, whatever. You just have standing reports so that the communication is repeatable and consistent, and they know what the cheeseburger tastes like.
And they know what the cheeseburger tastes like.
Right?
Well, and what is that? That is a system. That is a system of communication. So
Exactly.
having it in the CRM, having them in there, knowing where, like you said, having the report on a day where you go through every single thing. I mean, we know a lot of lenders that follow the core and follow that. And there's pipeline review day, right?
Yep.
And every agent gets a pipeline review day. They get a call of what is happening during the transaction. Over communication, but it's systematized.
Exactly.
And that also leads you in, if there is a moment of having the price reduction talk, you can point to, once again, the data, showing them, hey, based off all of this activity, all of this information, this is the feedback I'm seeing here. So I think what the market is telling us based off the data is we're priced a little too high.
Exactly.
And that takes the emotion out of it, right? Because they can't argue with all the feedback from the open house people that came through, the buyer's agents, all of the ads you're doing on social media,
All the DMs,
all the
all the
DMs,
caravans,
all the calls,
all the content.
everything that you're doing on the property. They can't argue with that of saying, like, maybe that's why we're not getting the offers that we want.
Exactly. And if you need help with that report, we can get different statistics and categories, like, have you called prominent loan officers in the same zip code? Have you called prominent buyer's agents in the same? We have ideas for you to put that "Don't Fire Me" report together. Simple stuff, but it'll allow you to put a simple, repeatable system in. So you, like Haley said, if it's time to pivot, because this is like Wally World on a roller coaster sometimes with pricing in San Diego, right? And we have to respond quickly. So then it allows you to have an intelligent conversation that isn't based on that emotion, but based on data.
Right. And when your communication is proactive, that's how you can control your listing and not really allow the seller's anxiety or emotions to control your listing, right?
Yeah.
That's how you can really control
Well, it's
it.
easy to get
That
sucked in too, because we can empathize and see, I know your babies grew up in this house. I get it. And all of a sudden you're sucked into the emotional world. You got to be the one that drops a stake in the ground on, you're the pro. They asked you to come in because you're the pro.
Right.
Own that information, control the conversation, and use that to help you do that.
Right. That's exactly it. So 5. So now that you have all of the...
Wait, we skipped 4.
Oh, I mean 4.
Scaling conversation.
I mean 4.
Yeah, okay, 4.
I mean 4.
Sorry.
So 4...
Numero 4.
I don't know where that came from. Anyways, now you probably are going to start building out a team, right? You're going to have buyer's agents. You're going to have your TC going. So how do you have marketable, repeatable systems for each of those people now that you're building the team? Because now not only are you leveraging or having to scale your listings and have that and dealing with the people, your sellers, all of the emotions behind your listings that you have going, but now how do you also manage the team?
Right. So you build in support systems, like technology is your friend, using CRM, where there's a listing drip that every Wednesday and Friday or what have you, there's automation that you can bring in for touching base and giving updates, and then having an effective assistant to help you set up showings, to help you check in with sellers, even using the lender to help you to call out. We have people that
Having
we
an
work
effective,
with,
a great TC.
having a TC that's proactive, and then building in where things live in your calendar. calendar to update your people, because now the more prospecting, the more your business is doing great. The good news is the bad news. The good news is you got way more business. The bad news is you got way more business.
Yeah.
Like, so you still are prospecting. Now you're managing more clients. So you have to have systems in place for that communication to keep that user experience high. So those reviews end up good and you get great results for your people, which leads to referrals. All that can be a lot. So then you start with leveraging technology, leveraging your schedule, getting the most out of your day is the first piece of leverage, like we talk about all the time. Then get some help. Get some help. You can't alone hit the numbers you want to hit most times, right? You need leverage in the form of technology and then help with an assistant or a good buyer's agent that can help you in a TC.
Well, and this is where the systems replace the hustle comes into, right? Because you still got to have the hustle going. You still got to be out there shaking hands and kissing babies and doing all those things and having the conversations. But now you got to have technology having your back on the back end to catch all of those conversations coming through.
Right.
And then having that kind of, having those KPIs, having a system, knowing how many calls you're making daily, how many DMs you're sending, how many emails are going out, how many conversations that you have. Because then we always talk about knowing how many conversations you're having lead to how many opportunities, which lead to how many signed contracts, which lead to how many deals.
Exactly.
You have to track those numbers, but we coach a lot of title reps and we see that the tracking's very haphazard,
spotty.
right?
Spotty.
It's a little spotty.
It's like my Wi-Fi in Carlsbad. It's
a little spotty. But it's like, how do you know what to scale up and what to get rid of and what to, really push forward on, or what to be like, we don't need that, if you're not tracking those numbers.
Yeah.
So you have to have a repeatable system.
What gets measured gets done. How do you know what you're going to build up or get rid of if you're not tracking anything? Great
exactly.
point.
And that's part of being part of the system, right? We have a system the way we track. We have our CRM that tracks it. We put our notes in the CRM. We have a lot of information in there, and everybody's on some kind of drip where they're getting constant communication.
Well, think about, like we talked about last week, controlling your day, or the day will control you.
Yeah.
You got to run your day or it'll run you around. And then it's no wonder why you're there at 11:30 answering emails, updating sellers on showings haphazardly, because you didn't take the hour from 2 to 4, the couple hours on Monday to update all the sellers.
Exactly.
So that's the benefit of the system, because all the way back to no white space, I always feel like I don't have enough time, scarcity of time. Well, that's why, because you're not packaging where all these activities we just talked about, which is, stressing me out a little bit. It's a lot.
Yeah, it could be a lot.
But if you put the chaos in little boxes in your calendar, you can do it. And then you can still be off by 7 or 6 or whatever and go to the beach or enjoy your children or have a life. We do this to have good lives.
Exactly. And you can start small and then you can see and tweak things and see what fits. I mean, we talk about this a lot. Everybody has the same amount of time in their day, right? Mm-hmm. Nobody gets extra time in their day. Hey, you did good. You get like 32 hours this week.
Yeah, you get 8 days this week.
You get an extra. That's not how this works. So people just get really efficient with their systems and efficient with their time and do 100% and go all in when they're working so they can be all in with the family. And we talk about that a lot too. Go all in during our time of full prospect.
So you can be all out.
Yeah.
I don't want 1 foot in work and 1 foot in vacation. That is, because you're not happy either place and you kind of mediocre at two things, right?
Right. And that's going back to like what we said earlier, systems will produce what systems will produce. So that's exactly it. You get nothing more or nothing less out of what systems you build. So if you don't have any systems, let us know. We'd love to be able to help. We are always tweaking our systems, and that's the other beauty of systems. You can always tweak, course correct, get rid of all of those things.
Oh, it's like any other practice, right? Whether it's a yoga practice, a meditation practice, a physical exertion, exercise practice, it's practice. You got to practice it and get better and top grade, and you learn along the way. In the action is the answer. You will find and learn how to get better by being in the batting cages.
Well, I think of we were at Tom, we heard emails, like they are still working, still some of the biggest high ROI, highest return. So what did we do? We were like, we need more emails going out. So now we went extra hard on emails. We got our VA sending emails. We got our marketing person sending emails. We got our marketing company sending emails. We got
There's
emails.
gorillas sending emails for us.
Now we're like, ooh, where are the emails being sent out? But it's all the same cohesive look and feel, and we've gotten deals from it. So we're
Katie's
already
a little pissed, but I mean, emails are going out.
Emails are going out. We got our CRM sending them. So, but we knew hey, we always have to get better because there's always ways we can learn. There's always things we can get better on. So if you have an awesome system that's worked for you, that you're like, oh, this is my system, exactly how I handle my buyers every single time, we would love to hear some of that.
Yeah. And so this should be hitting because, again, Tom Ferry dumped all of his coaching sessions into AI and came up with the top 3 things that you guys struggle with as agents. So we're talking a little bit anecdotal, what we do about it, because we're in sales too. We're all in this boat together. And we're here to help you investigate whether it's a report, whether it's how to time block those reports and communication systematically to sellers, buyers, your pipeline, etc. We've got thoughts on all that.
Exactly. So hit us up for any of those thoughts. And I'm Haley.
And I'm Ryan. See you next time.
Bye.
Bye.